joining us on a Saturday morning. We are really excited to have you here for the event or designing human-centric AI. I'm Kishore. I lead the Friends of Figma community, and I also work as a designer at Salesforce. Joining me today is Mohnish, who is also part of our Friends of Figma community. Throughout the event, feel free to use the Q&A section for any questions related to the talk or to or related to the community, and the chat section to share your thoughts and connect with others. Now, on to today's highlight. We are thrilled to have Akshay with us as our speaker. Akshay brings over a decade of experiences in shaping user experiences, especially in the AI space, long before AI became the buzzword today it is. Uh, Akshay, the virtual stage is all yours.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kishore. Welcome, everyone. Let me get started with a little story. Hope you can see my screen. I'm not able to see the
Yes.
chat, so just give me.
Yes.
All right. So, growing up, my mom had the best speech recognition system. They would everything she said and also do certain tasks on her behalf. They could do simple things like switching on the light bulb, turning on the fan, switch on the TV. They could also do something interesting, like if she wanted to watch her serial at specific times in the day. And many of you are from Indian families, and you must have gone through this exercise of Indian parents wanting to watch specific serials at different points of time. She would just say, "30, can you put on my serial?" And it would sort the assistants would essentially switch on the TV, know which channel to go to, uh, put put the TV at the right volume. Uh, these assistants could also do something interesting. They could do advanced actions like deciphering text from her handwritten notes and get groceries from different kinds of stores. They would also figure out if some store did not have something available, they would go to a different store. Over time, these assistants gained skills. So one of them learned how to design products, another learned archaeology. But all this didn't last for too long. For in a few years, me and my sister moved out of the house. Hello, I'm Akshay Kore. I lead product and design at Suki.ai. I usually go by as a product design leader, and I'm also an author. I studied at IIT Bombay, where I worked on GIS mapping tools. The tools that I built was Mumbai Data. It is an open source GIS mapping tool for Mumbai city. It garnered a lot of attention. It also got published in Bloomberg. Apart from this, I also uh, have a management degree. So I recently graduated from ISB. Here I worked on a project on millets. It was published in Forbes magazine. You can take a look at it. This was around integrating technology into millet farming. Uh, at IIT, one of the other projects that I continue to work on was in the area of reinforcement learning and prediction mechanisms. I worked on a project on finding finding the best contact for you in your phone contact book. Essentially, it involved applying some sort of a machine learning on top of your regular contact book. Nowadays, like most modern phones have this feature, but at that point, we basically try to figure out at different points of time, different people become important to you. For example, on a weekend, certain people are more important to you. On a Monday morning, certain different people are important to you. It also depends on where you are located. So you can see like there's a lot of inputs and variance that goes into uh, this mechanism to sort of uh, figure out which is the most important contact for you. So that was another project that I worked with Microsoft Research on. I continued my journey with Microsoft post my days at IT, and where I worked largely in their AI research group. I worked on personal AI assistants, primarily Cortana. Some of you may have seen used Cortana on their Windows devices. This was an early voice plus text plus GUI assistant. So had a lot of fun, learned a lot. We were still early, we were figuring out a lot of things. Uh, Post this, I moved to startups in Bangalore. Uh, I worked at this company called Observe.ai. We're basically trying to apply AI to optimize contact centers or call centers. One of the major projects that I worked on was called Auto QA. The idea of this being that uh, contact centers get millions of conversations throughout every day, and it is hard to decipher the sense of what's going on within those conversations. our auto QA system would sort of listen to all these conversations and sort of evaluate agents on their performance automatically. We also enabled companies to build their own machine learning models through a GUI DIY sort of a fashion, and it was a very simple interface. We also have a US patent on this project. I currently lead design at this company called Suki.ai. Suki, we're trying to build AI assistant for clinicians, uh, and the doctor can essentially talk to the AI assistant to different kinds of modalities. As you can see, there is a pattern in my career. I've largely worked in AI assistants, AI, some sort of machine learning paradigms all my life. I also started like blogging about this over time because I felt that there was a difference in what designers knew what AI was versus what engineers understood it, and there was lots of limitations and possibilities between these two domains. So I started like sort of blogging about it, teaching it at different conferences, schools, etc. Uh, which culminated into this book. It's called Designing Human-Centric AI Experiences. This is a popular textbook in a lot of schools, and it is also being used in lots of companies. It has also won an award. It's called Best Artificial Intelligence Design Book of All Time. The book generally talks about first principles, so it's not going to be talking about any tools, etc. And again, like this book is being used in lots of institutes like Harvard, Stanford, IIT Bombay, ISB, IIMs, as well as large big tech like Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, Tesla, Atlassian, Salesforce. I enjoy teaching, so I also am a visiting faculty at IIM Bangalore and IIT Bombay. I teach a course on designing AI products. Uh, so before we jump in, I want to set context, okay, or and set context of where we are. Right, the people who invented or discovered electricity did not know that we would get things like microwaves and gaming. Right, the person who invented electricity probably never had a conception of a microwave or a gaming console. Somebody who had people who invented transistors probably did not know that we would get iPhones. We are at a similar place with AI. So we have a lot of foundational models and foundational elements available to us, similar to electricity, but we don't know what the microwave or the gaming console of the AI world looks like. So I would like to start by saying no one knows the future. We are all trying to figure it. You are trying to figure out. I am also trying to figure out. So uh, we will hopefully get something interesting out of this conversation. One more thing. This session is not about using AI tools. There are far better people to talk about this. I have largely worked on designing a lot of these AI tools, so I will be talking about the design of AI tools and not specifically their usage in your design process. With that, let's get started. So I want to talk about three areas, three concepts, uh, which will help you design better AI products. First is there are only two things that matter. Second is nobody really wants to use your AI product. And the third is you don't really want to chat with your AI. Okay, and let's jump into all of these. Right. There are only two things matter when you're designing AI products. It is trust and feedback. An AI that is not trustworthy is not useful. So, for example, many of you have used AI products. Many of you may have been dabbling with lots of AI products, and a lot of the time the drop off of these AI products often happens because they have not been able to build the right level of trust with you. You don't know if the outcomes will be as predictable as possible. You don't know if the AI understands me. So trust is a major component of building any AI products. And generally, there are a big question that comes to mind is what is trust, right? And building trust is not really about being right all the time. Of course, you always want to optimize for providing the best output, but these systems are probabilistic, so you won't have the right answer all the time. But building trust is while building trust is not about being right all the time, it is about integrity, accepting mistakes, and actively correcting them. And if you think about these words, integrity, accepting mistakes, it's nothing but some sort of feedback, right? So how do you build trust? So there are, according to me, there are two ways to build trust. One is explainability. Explainability essentially means you're telling your users or explaining to your users how your AI system works, how well it works, how when it does not work. You're sort of setting the right set of expectations. And the second thing is control. So while your AI systems are going to be wrong, but you're providing some level of control on the outputs of your system can also help build trust. And I'll show you some examples of what that means. So the first example is of Spotify. So on Spotify, you create a playlist, right? Based on the playlist, it will also recommend additional songs to add to your playlist. Now, the way these songs are recommended is through some sort of a model, right? And you don't really need to go into the depth of the model, but the only thing you really need to understand or explain to the user is that these are the songs that are being recommended because you have put certain other songs. This is enough amount of explanation. It gives you a sense of the model of how the system works. Second way is uh, what I call as aggregate. So, for example, on Amazon, when you look at a specific product, like say I'm building a gaming PC, and for the gaming PC, I have a motherboard that I have decided. Right? It would recommend me other things that people who have bought this specific product also buy. So this model also these results were generated through a simple sentence. I'm going to use a lot of Spotify examples, because I think they do a lot of these things well. Uh, on Spotify, you also are able to. Spotify also generates custom playlists for you, right? And a lot of the times, the title of the playlist itself is the explanation of the model. For example, on repeat, you know what it means. You are listening to these songs on repeat. Summer rewind, you probably have a sense of what these things mean. All these are also explanations. Explanations are not always wordy text. On most news feed like applications or any sort of library like applications, you will see some ways to dismiss outputs essentially. So on Google News, you would sort of see a way to sort of hide a specific story, uh, say like or dislike, save the story, etc. You are essentially not doing nothing but providing control to your user. Right? It is generally hard to provide explainability in GenAI. So what you will see is in a lot of GenAI applications, they index a lot more on control. Get a lot more control because the people who are designing these models themselves do not know how the outputs were generated. Sometimes you can force some of these models to sort of provide references, etc. But a lot of times these references also hallucinate. So if you use these tools enough, you probably know like even if you get a reference, sometimes it is a broken link, sometimes it is not really a URL at all, etc. So the general way in which these systems sort of build trust with users is through providing a lot more control on its outputs. Your AI will make mistakes. So this is a given. All AI systems are probabilistics, and because it is a probability-based system, you are going to make mistakes, and your system is going to be wrong sometimes. This is a general mental model of how almost all AI systems work. You get some sort of an input, it goes through an AI model, and it generates an output. Essentially, learning in AI will happen by like going through this loop. Right? For example, your input could be a prompt, and the output could be an image. Your input could be an image, the output could be a description of the image. Your input could be a song, the output could be a music video of the song. Basically, like most AI systems are some sort of input output mappings. Uh, Even if you take like popular AI systems like LLMs, they also are a very sped up input output mechanism. Your LLM is essentially taking the input of your prompt plus the previous word and a bunch of other parameters to generate an output. And because these systems will be wrong, you want to understand when they are wrong and try to improve the model all the time. And this is what is known as feedback. Feedback is a very big component of most AI systems. And having a general sense of feedback in your design process is going to help you design much better AI products. In general, there are three types of feedback in most AI systems: explicit, implicit, and dual. And you will use all of these whenever you design AI products. Explicit is what we have all seen, like, dislike, star ratings, input boxes, tags, etc. These are very common. You have already seen it. Explicit feedback is extremely prevalent in most AI systems. I don't think you'll find any AI system that does not have some sort of an explicit feedback mechanism. Second is implicit. Implicit is essentially what you decipher from user behavior. Essentially, it could be eye tracking, it could be things like your funnel diagrams, it could also be like reviews of your app or your product on like App Store or like different social media. Right? And the idea is to sort of extract a lot of this feedback to sort of build a better product. So in the diagram that we saw, that is the feedback that we're talking about. Right? Most AI systems will have this, and in this case, you can see a combination of both explicit and implicit feedback. We call it dual feedback. Explicit is things like liking a song, disliking a song, skipping it. Is explicit. I know from this user behavior that this song is not being liked or being skipped. Uh, Implicit is a little bit trickier and harder, but this is where you need to work with your tech teams to sort of ML and tech teams to sort of figure out what is the best way to collect this sort of feedback. In this case, like the duration of the song, if there are certain parts of the song that are like, can I generate a pattern out of it, and can I generate a playlist in this case, or can I generate more recommendations for you based on like parts of the song you often listen to. Sometimes we tend to skip certain parts of songs towards the end, especially when they're like uh, some songs will like sort of have like a very slow end, and people tend to sort of skip them. So these could be like different kind of settings. But the idea being that there is a combination of implicit and explicit feedback that you will use. Right? These are some examples of feedback in modern LLM applications. Uh, but one thing to remember is your user's not job is not to give you feedback. Okay? They are there to get something done, and giving feedback should be optional. You should not intrude the user's core workflow. For example, if a surgeon is conducting surgery, asking for feedback while the surgery is ongoing is not a good idea. Right? Another thing you want to really think deeply about is why will somebody give you feedback? You need to consider the incentives for someone giving you feedback. I talk about this at length in my book. This session is too short for this topic, but think about like why will somebody attempt to give you feedback? Sometimes it is about frustration. Sometimes people are just nice, but there are other mechanisms that you can use to get feedback. All right. So the next topic, next idea I want to talk to you about is that no one wants to use your product. What they really want to do is they want to get something done. You don't really want to use clock app. You want to wake up on time. You don't want to use PowerPoint. You want to communicate your idea. Your users don't really care about your AI interface, your AI agentic framework, any of the complex, fancy things that you do. They only care if it solves their problem. Right? Take this idea to heart. Ask is why will somebody use your product? Why are they here? And is AI the best way to solve it? The third idea I want to talk to you about is that you don't really want to chat with your AI. What you want to do is communicate with it. Right? So, what comes to mind when you think of an AI interface? Uh, Folks, can you add your comments in the chat? And Kishore, can you just read out?
Sure, Akshay. Yeah, I mean, like predominantly, like what comes to my mind is like, of course, ChatGPT, Gemini,
Hmm?
Perplexity,
Yeah,
uh, Jarvis. There is an answer from Dylan Jarvis.
nice.
Text box or microphone is another answer. Conversational chats, chat interface, most probably a chatbot, a text-based UI.
Awesome, awesome.
Uh, yeah, place to dump my thoughts in a text box, but now solving slow loving Gemini live. Sorry, Stitch AI is the best one for interface design, agentic AI. So these are all some of the answers we got in chat.
Mhm. Very cool. So yeah, it is quite predictable. If you remember phones, right? All phones eventually became voids. Now we have voids that fold, but they still are voids essentially. So all phones over time sort of converged into becoming some sort of voids. I see something similar happening with AI interfaces, but I think we can do better. Right? There are lots of ways in which AI can be applied, and these are just some of the non-chat based AI interfaces. For example, talking to an assistant is an AI based interface. Uh, a Spotify or like a YouTube suggesting you things in a list, generating playlist for you automatically, creating like custom video playlist for you on YouTube is also an AI interface. If you think about it, it's not based on chat at all. Uh, when you're typing something, Smart Compose will add the next best words to use. That's also an AI interface. We saw some of the Amazon examples earlier, where you are looking at specific items and it suggests you other kinds of items. You can also rank things interestingly using AI. For example, if I want to book a flight, and you must have heard of lots of agentic AI interfaces going the whole flight booking process end to end, or like a travel booking process end to end. Those are uh, I don't think people will be comfortable too much in giving agency to for making the payment itself as yet, right? But AI can do a great job of ranking flights or ranking things from a series of discrete uh, items into a list, and it can tell you that hey, this flight is being recommended because you prefer this specific airline at these times in the day. You won't get jet lag. It understands your sleep patterns. You could do a lot of interesting things by just deeply applying AI to like existing interfaces itself. You have Circle to Search, which is uh, a new one which I discovered a year ago, which is pretty interesting. I think it will become a common pattern over time. You have vision-based AI. You also have an ability to cluster classify things automatically. Your smart Meta Ray-Ban smart glasses have a way to interact with the AI. It is largely by voice, but I think we'll get to a world where you'll have some level of visuals plus voice in a lot of these interfaces. So whenever you next time think about AI interfaces, I want you to also consider things beyond chatbots. Otherwise, we'll turn into like the iPhone where everything looks the same and much there's not much diversity. Here I'm gonna let me show you an example from our own work at Suki. This is a news clipping.
New
I will
artificial
just skip.
intelligence tool you could see at your next checkout.
This is an AI system that's going to be listening to us and it's going to be scribing the note.
Right on his phone, Dr. Robin Baradarian is running a high-tech tool called Suki AI.
Any family history of any problems.
While he talks with patient Michelle Barone in an exam,
I feel burning up. Sometimes I even feel it in my ears.
Suki takes notes, letting the doctor focus on her.
I remember going to doctors, their back was turned as they were trying to write notes down, looking at the computer. It's personable.
It helps you concentrate on the important aspects of being a doctor.
Suki does more than
So we'll not know, go into all the features of Suki, but the idea being like, as you saw, the doctor did not really interact with the AI at all. The AI was listening ambient and was doing uh, the boring stuff of what most doctors don't like to do is doing documentation itself. So a doctor could essentially hand off a very tedious, boring job to the AI and sort of focus on what they have been trained to do. A lot of the doctors in the US, especially, end up like sort of uh, not paying too much attention or like not facing the patient as much, and the patients are also unhappy because I've come here and the doctor is not looking at me. They're on their desktop or their phone and typing away things. This brings a lot more human connection. The doctor is able to actively interact with the patient. They enjoy their profession a lot more. The patient is also happy because now my doctor is talking to me. If you look at remote controls like maybe 10, 15 years back, and some of you might be too young for that, they look something like this. You had to click on a bunch of buttons. You had to, if you wanted to watch a specific show at a specific time, there was no like saving of memory of on your TVs where it remembered what was the last channel you watched. Uh, if you know the channel number, you have to type in the channel number, or if you did not know, God forbid, you would have to go through a list of channels. And eventually, they introduced things like menus. But a typical remote control sort of looked like this. Now, when it came to uh, my mom, what she really wanted to do was just put on her serial. Really, like she didn't really care about all the features that this TV had. She just wanted this TV to. She just wanted to watch her serial at a specific volume at a specific time. Um, if you think about it, almost all your users will prefer the most natural way to interact. And in this case, like using a bunch of buttons, chatting with your chatbot sometimes is not as natural if you think about it. Right? What my mom really wanted to do was say, "Hey, can you put on my show?" And she sort of used me as the interface to get it done. But when you think about designing your AI products, think about what is the most natural way to interact with the product. It sometimes might not be a chatbot at all. Again, I have nothing against chatbots, but uh, it might not be the best interface in all cases. I want to introduce a book to you guys. It is called Enchanted Objects. It is an old book, I think around 10 years old. The idea of this book is that intelligence can be seamlessly blended into everyday life. Uh, if any of you watch science fiction, play games that involve science fiction or fantasy, or you read science fiction and fantasy, if you notice a pattern of the technology that is often shown in a lot of these uh, stories, is not really a black glass or a void that's in your hand. It is often like something interesting, like a talisman. It is sometimes a flying carpet, etc. So this book essentially talks about how the how we don't really need to design every time for these black voids, but you can also design objects which are enchanted or almost magical. Right? And here are the few examples of what these enchanted objects could be. So, for example, and some of these examples are real, and some of these are from science fiction and fantasy. For example, Harry Potter's Marauders map sort of is essentially a GPS location of every person uh, in the school. Uh, the communicator in Star Trek is an interesting device. Basically, it exists as a badge and it does interesting things, and you can interact with it and get a lot of things done. So that's interesting. Again, in Star Trek, you won't see a lot of phones per se. You'll see like watches that become phones. Palantir from Lord of the Rings is an interesting one. Babelfish from Hitchhiker's Guide, if you've read it. It is essentially a translator, but it's a much more nuanced translator of language. Then let me talk about a few real products. For example, like the one that you see on the bottom right is a product called Ambient Orb. It's basically a programmable orb that you can connect lots of any kind of data feed to, and people use it for very interesting things like weather check. For example, like it ambiently tells you what the weather is outside without you looking outside. It also you can connect it to specific stocks that you're tracking or the market in general. So often a lot of these technologies first end up being used in finance, and it's unfortunate, I know, but it end up being used in finance, and they sort of use it as uh, a device to ambiently track the performance of a specific stock I'm looking at. So it would become red, green, blue, purple, whatever I assigned it to. But again, like there's no text output. I can ambiently understand what's going on and whether I need to act on something or not. Uh, the the metallic device you see in the center here is a recorder. It's made by this company called Teenage Engineering. Your phones are also built by the same company. It's a very interesting device. It is extremely high tech. It's a voice recorder, but with a lot of tactile elements to it, and it also has AI in it. So it records your voice, and you can also it also summarizes your recordings and can do a lot of interesting things with it. So that's also a type of an enchanted object. Right? It has tactility. It feels nice to use. It is also usable at the same time and also intelligent. IKEA has this product, a lot of them in my house. It monitors AQI. It's a very cheap product, and it just tells you the weather the air in your house is fine or not. Basically, it goes from green to red. Essentially, if it is yellow, orange, or red, you want to do something about it. You want to switch on the fan, switch on the air purifier, open your windows, whatever it makes you sort of improve the quality of your air. But it does it ambiently. So it's sitting in the background. I mostly don't pay attention to it unless it calls for my attention. Another product is called, some of you who may be musicians may have seen this product. It's called the Rolly Seaboard. It's a riff on the keyboard essentially, but it has a lot of interesting interface elements. It is essentially a MIDI keyboard, essentially an electronic keyboard, and apart from pressing on the keys, you can also like swipe on these keys. You can press softly or hardly, and based on what you do, like interesting sounds are produced. So it opens up like almost infinite possibilities. Uh, the one in the center is a mirror. It's called the Magic Mirror. It's an open source project. So if some of you are interested in building it yourself, you should try it. Uh, it allows you to convert a mirror into a magic mirror with some sort of an interface. With LLMs, you can probably do a lot more interesting things connected to your ChatGPT or like some sort of an account and sort of build a truly intelligent mirror. I've built a few mirrors myself. I enjoy building them. It has a combination of both interface design, little bit of hardware, product design, a lot of things. So, next time whenever you think of building products, think of enchanted objects as one framework for you. Their products need not be words that have started becoming boring. They can be a lot more interesting, right? If you don't take away anything from my talk, this is the one thing I want you to take away. Uh, your users, uh, you want your users to interact with your AI with the most natural mechanism possible. Like sometimes, and the most natural mechanism might be chatting, it might be pressing, holding, interjecting, uh, looking and pointing, clicking, saying paraverbals like haha, using tone of voice, sniffing could be interesting. So think beyond your GUI. Your mood and tone of voice can also be inputs and elements of your interface. So, but sometimes it is, and think of the most easy way. So sometimes it is easier to tap on a button. Sometimes you want to chat. Sometimes it is better to speak. Sometimes it is better to point your finger. For example, if I had to show you a thing in this room, it is much easier for me to show my camera and point you to it than like describing what it is. So the best interface is the often the easiest interface. Sometimes you will want to really interact with the AI. Sometimes you'll want the AI itself to respond to you. So you looked at a lot of the examples in the enchanted objects images that I showed earlier. A lot of the times you don't really have to even interact with the AI. It just works on your behalf ambiently. So with that, let me summarize. So we talked about three ideas. The first idea was that only two things matter: trust and feedback. The second idea was nobody really wants to use your product. They want to get something done. So you don't want to use the clock app or click a bunch of buttons. You want to wake up on time. And you can also expand that idea, right? You can say, I want to wake up on time refreshed. It changes the entire notion of what you're trying to build. The third is you don't really want to chat with your AI. Sometimes you may want to, but what you really want to do is communicate with it. Communication is also two ways. It is also sometimes the AI interacting with you. It is also you interacting with the AI. And how you interact with the AI can have different ways. You can chat with it, you can speak with it, point fingers, etc. So with that, that's my time. Thank you. And yeah, reach out to me on LinkedIn if you have more questions. I'm always happy to chat about it. I love teaching. I love learning from all of you. And I look forward to what you all build.
Thank you so much, Akshay. Before we jump to the Q&A, we have some questions in the chat. But before jumping there, like folks, feel your feedback matters a lot to us. So please scan the QR code or use the link in the chat. Mohnish, can you share the feedback link in the chat? Folks, please share your feedback. And also, once you fill the feedback, you will see a thank you page where you will be able to download the deck used by Akshay in the session. Yeah, let's jump to the Q&A. Feel free to ask questions in the chat section. Mohnish, would you like to read out the questions to Akshay?
Yes.
Thank you.
So we have a question from Pranay Goel. How was your experience in communicating about AI within design teams versus when discussing with devs? So how does it differ from design team versus dev?
Got it. So I would say like it is time for us to become a little bit hybrid. It is important for us to also understand how engineering works and how these systems are built. So unless you understand how the technology is itself built, it is hard. It is going to be hard to communicate with your devs because essentially both of you come from different worldviews of how things should be done, and you want to become the person that sort of bridges that gap. So one way is it also comes back to one of the points I made, right? It is about trust building. So trust building starts with uh, you having a lot of integrity, and when you are communicating with your devs, you want to show a lot of prototypes. So don't talk about specific screens, talk about stories, talk about the user journey itself. A lot of user research helps here. Basically, what your engineers also want to do is solve the problem. They're just trying to solve the problem through a different lens. So you want to bring your own lens of user story, storytelling, prototypes, etc. So it is a hard process, but it is worth it. Once you build a strong relationship with your engineering team, you can get a lot of interesting things built. Now, is somebody reading out, or should I just read out the questions?
I can read out. So the second question is, what is your thought on third level of AI, which is general AI, and how it would be different from narrow and broad AI?
So, uh, so you're basically talking about AGI, essentially, artificial general
Yes.
intelligence, and so I I honestly don't pay too much attention to it. I think there are like some very smart people trying to build AGI. The problem with AGI is that it is very hard to define what intelligence even means. Right? If you fundamentally ask what intelligence means, is it problem solving? Is creativity intelligence? Is somebody sports playing sports intelligent? So the question of what is intelligence itself is very philosophical. So I try to not go too deep into that. Uh, in terms of AGI, I think if AGI comes, it will largely be positive. We will have some job losses for sure. We will have some challenges in society. A lot of things outside of product and design will have to change for once AGI comes. So product and design will be a very small problem when that comes.
We have one question from Amar. Damn, Akshay, when did you realize in your experience that the path you are going to start aligning with your AI designs, and how did you figure out this is the path to take moving forward in the designing space?
Got it. So it generally comes down to like honestly just luck and curiosity. So I'm not special. I just happen to be at the right place at the right time. Uh, what I tend to do is I'm extremely curious about most things. So I'm mostly failing a lot, trying lots of things. I have a lot of side projects that I do. I uh, I learn programming. I like learning languages, human languages also. So that that helped me somewhere down the line because I was working in these tech companies. I sort of something clicked and I sort of went deeper. It's more of a personal journey for you. It might be something different. So I would say like go for what you're most curious about and go deep into it. So I tend to hyperfixate on things. So I will really, if I'm trying to learn cooking, I will probably get all the books around the science of cooking and first principles, what is cooking even, etc. Even before I like touch a knife, which is probably not a good way to do most things. But yeah, it's a combination of luck and just curiosity.
We have a interesting question from Dylan. How many job opportunities exist from those working on innovative interaction design like Suki, and not another GUI? How do you find such startups?
So right now, uh, it would be less. This is just my prediction that you will have a lot more. And as you saw, right, like a lot of the examples that I spoke about are net new. So I would say like you can also start positioning yourself whenever that opportunity comes. Positioning involves you trying out something in these domains beforehand, and when the right companies or the right opportunities come, so you may also want to start your own company. So when all those things come together, that is where you might find the right job fitment. Again, this is a hard question because depends on like a lot of geopolitics, a lot of other factors go into jobs. In terms of how many jobs are there, I think almost any company will have a component of AI. So you can slowly start integrating even in your current job. As almost even if you go to a manufacturing company, they are all going to be talking about AI at this point. So I would say there's lots of opportunities if you are looking for them specifically for in this domain. But again, it won't start with trying to build cool interfaces. It will probably start with, hey, this is a real problem we want to solve, and let's use our design thinking hats to sort of solve that problem.
We have one question from Nikita Jaiswal. What are some effective ways to build trust in AGI,
Mhm.
AI-generated responses, within enterprise-grade tools designed to automate manual processes beyond the usual feedback mechanisms like a dashboard feedback mechanism? I'm
Mhm.
curious to support strategies that can make these systems feel more reliable and transparent to user.
Uh, so I so I'll answer this in two ways. One is it is almost impossible for these systems to be truly transparent. So that is something you want to communicate or like internalize yourself. So you probably will not be able to always tell us why a certain output was generated. Uh, Generally providing lots of mechanisms to control the AI output, being able to undo, redo things, or like modify the outputs through some sort of an intervention. It could be like I chat with it, I click on a thing, I select something, right click, uh, I tap on a bunch of things, I upload something. There's lots of ways. The more control you provide your users, the more trustworthy it will feel over time. And again, there's a factor of like quality itself, the AI itself needs to be good. So it's not a purely design problem, it's also a tech problem. But from a design lens, you want to provide as much control as possible to your users. I have a couple of blog posts on this. You can check them out.
We have a question from Shruti. Srishti, sorry. Does Suki only transcribe the consultation, or does it help with doctor by surfacing relevant patient history and preparing summary before the appointment, possibly offering one-click or easy access to the key details? So does it summarizes everything from a patient history perspective?
Got it. So I will not be able to answer that question as yet, but happy to chat offline.
We have a question from Selja. What are some topics to learn and skills to develop for a traditional product designer to a AI-centric product design team? To lead a AI-centric product design team. So how what that transition things
Got
like check points? Yeah.
See, I think your core design skills still uh, continue to matter. Like do do user research, being able to do usability studies, you being able to build beautiful interfaces. All those things continue to matter. A few skills that you can start developing is trying to understand the technology aspects of how AI works. So initially it will be hard. So like there's a lot of like uh, beginner tutorials on these. So do it from a lens of like largely curiosity, understanding how these systems work. Because the thing is, once you have a general mental model of how something works, it becomes much easier to design for it also. So I would say like understand the technology, don't focus on like your core skills are good enough to start with. understand the technology, and like you will start building, bridging the gap between those two.
Actually, Menika wants to understand, do you have any AI principles that you can reference while designing AI products? Do you have some articles or like some thoughts?
Yeah, so my book largely just talks about uh, AI principles. I can give a quick summary of these. So one is two things I already talked about. One is building trust. Now, building trust is a deeper topic because there are different ways of building trust in AI products. You can use different kinds of mechanisms to build trust. I have a few blog posts on the same topic, so you can check them out. Second is getting feedback, and then you will fail. So, how do you gracefully handle failure is a core principle that I tend to advocate. I don't think it's a principle, but it's more of a guideline. In terms of principles, you want to really consider if you want to even use AI in your products, and whether there is an ROI of using AI in any problem that you're trying to solve. So I don't know if I fully answered your questions, but the general principle being like trust is the most important component. If you're able to build trust, everything else will fall into place. So you use ChatGPT more because you trust it more. You use a Google maybe more because you trust it more. So trust is a very fundamental concept. If you index a lot on just this aspect of it, you will build uh, very useful AI products. Again, I have a few blog posts on this. You can check them out.
We have a question from someone. Sometimes designer can envision a UX beyond what's technically possible, such as latency and hallucinations.
Mhm.
How can we use UX to bridge the gap between tech and vision together to deliver a more intuitive and delightful experiences?
Well, that's a very good question. So one is first start understanding the technology itself. Like you will run into limits of physics at some point, which is like latency. Things can't move beyond the speed of light. So you are going to run into those challenges. Uh, at when these type of challenges come in, because you're essentially designing for people, going into psychology also helps. Essentially, what your users care about is not really latency. They care about things not being fast enough, and things not being fast enough is one a factor of true latency, but it is also a factor of like relativity in some sense, like it's perception of time. I can enhance your perception of time. So for example, if you played games before, you can play a game for 10, 12 hours straight sometimes, which I do tend to do. And it's not like there's not latency, etc. But games themselves sort of enhance my experience, and also like they use a lot of psychological tricks to sort of make me feel like this is fast when it might just be as fast as anything. So there is one example of uh, Instagram, where when they were when they initially launched their app, and when people uploaded their pictures, they everyone felt that their upload speeds were much faster than all their competitors. And the only thing that they really did is user uploaded when the user selected a picture, they automatically started uploading it to their servers. So by the time you sort of completed your post, etc., and you hit enter, you had already posted your photo, and it felt instantaneous. But in reality, they were not really taking lesser time than any of their competitors. So going into psychology helps at that point.
I think it's a follow-up question to the same. Like you mentioned some examples. So Pawan wants to share an example of a human approach fundamentally change the outcome of a AI project in your work. So any human-centered approach which changes.
Mm, so I'll not take the I'll talk about it. So we're building an AI assistant, and we were building the AI assistant for on like on a large screen device that was being used by lots of people at the same time. Now the challenge, because it was AI and like it because it was a speech interface, right? If you think about speech interfaces, you most probably, if you are close to your laptop, you are not really going to talk to it. You're going to type to it. You're going to use your pointer, etc. The most common scenario where you use a speech interface is when the device itself is far from you. So one small nuance we introduced at that point was if somebody is talking via voice, we just increase the font size of everything on the screen. Because if I'm talking via voice, I'm probably far away from my screen. That is a heuristic that we used. And because I'm far away from the screen, things might not be as legible as when I might be close to my laptop. So in that case, you slightly increase the fonts of everything. It was like a subtle nuance thing, but it greatly improved accessibility for us.
We have one interesting question from Srinag. The output generated by AI models is based on data used for training. While designing experiences, what should designer be aware of? The, what should what should a designer be aware of regarding the data used to train this model, and how may it impact the experience? So, do we have any say or like input which can we can feed to develop the UI?
Okay, so don't think of yourself as one lone ranger trying to build an AI product. You're going to be always designing, building it with a team of people. So design is a function, so is product, so is engineering, so is ML. So all of them equally contribute. When it comes to selecting the kind of data, different functions are more equipped to decide that. But if you have an opinion, you should always give it. If it's like a strong, structured opinion that will improve the user experience itself, it makes sense to give it. So again, I'm not directly answering your question because I feel like one thing to internalize is that designers are not should not think of themselves as alone in this journey. You're working with a team, so use your team uh, to use your team. Share your opinions on like what data to use, what data to not use, etc. So we all always have these ethical conversations within our company as well about data usage. And yeah, we have a general sense we're all trying to solve the same problem in the best possible manner, and we uh, want to do the best thing for our users. And that's an intent that we go with, and all functions are equally responsible for what data gets put in or used for training.
Uh, we have a long question from Akshay. I'd like to summarize it. Basically, he wants to understand like the long LLM output of a prompt. Let's say if it's a complex prompt, if you have added, like that slows down the absorption of that speed, right? Like, that slows down my working speed sometimes. Even that put off the flow as I rely on the rapid user design. Basically, he wants to understand. Like how do you synthesize like LLM responses if you have given some like if you ask for some answer from AI, how do you synthesize those answers for your design, like using it in your design or rapid user design research? Do you have any opinion?
Uh, so it's a more of an AI tool usage question. So it like I might not be the best person to answer this question, but what I use is like simple prompts like summarize or like personifying, giving a character to what I'm trying to do, and sort of using that character as a way to sort of summarize things. If I want uh, some opinions on, um let's say I want some opinions on like a farmer's perspective or something, I would ask the AI to operate like an agriculturist or like somebody who's an expert at agriculture, and that's how I use the prompt to essentially summarize things. So that would give me a more contextual prompt for what I'm trying to do. A tool usage question. I'm sure there are people who have much better workflows than I have.
Actually, we'll take the last question from Rajesh Kumar. How
Hmm.
long do you think it will take to become a dynamic generative UI, to become a norm? Are we still too early to design a for a generative UI?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
So, how long do you think it will take to become a dynamic generative UI to become a norm? Are we still too early in designing for a generative UI?
Uh, when you say generative UI, I think of very different things. So one is if you're thinking of generative UI as things that UI is generated on the fly when you're asking a specific question. I think it is a bit far, but it's an idea that everyone is, a lot of people are thinking about, and I think it seems to be the direction in which the world might head. If you saw the recent OpenAI GPT-5 update, right, where it does the agent mode that it has, that is nothing but dynamic UI being generated. The only challenge there is uh, GPT or Chat OpenAI building enough trust with users to sort of hand off a lot of their workflows to this system. So it is generating things on the fly. You can extrapolate it and potentially have like something that is a general purpose computing device that you just has a lot of intelligence, and you ask it a question or ask it to do a task. And while it is doing the task, if it requires a specific software, it builds that software temporarily, does your thing, hands off to the next thing. Then it builds another software, it hands off the next thing. So it could happen. It's an interesting area to explore. I don't know if there yet, but it is happening in bits and pieces. If you can already observe it happening.
Kishore?
Awesome. Cool. I think we are done with the Q&A. Once again, thank you, Kishore. Thank you, Mohnish, for inviting me. And thank you, everyone, for listening. I hope this was helpful to you. And yeah, stay in touch, reach out. I love talking about these topics. So happy to chat with you all.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.